How's it going, folks? Welcome back to the random video blog for this week. Not too much going on. I just got home from school about a week ago, and that's basically what I wanted to talk about. And I've discussed this before here in the video blog about a year or so ago in regards to indie wrestling, independent wrestling scene, whatever you want to call it. That's my subject for the video blog here today. So I left school. I got done with my sophomore year of college last Friday, and I was going to be, originally I thought I was going to be done on Monday. I had my final exam on Monday, but it ended up being switched to Friday, so I got done on Friday and whatever. But only about a week and a half before that did I find out that they were bringing the independent wressling organization that I went to regularly during my freshman year of college, New England Championship Wrestling, a great organization, only in the Massachusetts area. They used to do shows all the time out of Beverly, Massachusetts, only right down the street from my school, before they moved to another part of the state, far out of my reach, so I couldn't really go anymore. I went to about one show in October, and that was about it. So they were bringing the show back to the Beverly area. I was able to go on Saturday night. I stayed over at school on Friday night just to go to the show. And I mean, if I didn't go, I wouldn't have been too disappointed. I mean, knowing how awesome it was, I probably would have regretted it. But the tickets are only like $10, $15, which is usually the case with a lot of independent wrestling events. Like I said, I've talked about this before in my last video blog on indie wrestling about a year or so ago, so I don't want to repeat myself. I want to kind of focus more on this event in the year, on the event from about a year ago. Not every single indie wrestling experience that I've ever had. That I go into more detail on in my last video blog from about a year ago, like I said, so go back in the archives to check that out. So I stayed behind on Friday on my campus to go to the show on Saturday. Like I said, only $10, $15. It's really all you're getting. And some indie events, more often than not, they just feature talent that you've never seen before. And when you go to your first indie event, especially for a casual fan, they're expecting like these big arenas. They're expecting Raw. You know, if you tell them you're bringing them to a wrestling event, they're automatically thinking, oh, we're going to a WWE show, which is, of course, not always the case. And some people, unfortunately, do not have that privilege. They do not have indie wrestling in their area. I know there's some parts of the state, some parts of the world, you know, some parts of the country, excuse me, of the country and the world that don't have independent wrestling. And it really sucks because, you know, a lot of people should be supporting indie wrestling, whether it's CZW or, I don't know if you can count Ring of Honor, but Ring of Honor and a lot of those other kind of organizations, 2CW, I think it's called, a lot of Evolve, Dragon Gate, you know, like stuff like that. All that kind of stuff is awesome. You know, you can watch it over the internet, talk about it, spread the word, anything like that is greatly appreciated. You know, some people don't find the time to watch it because they just don't have the time. But when I can, I do go to these shows. I went to the one on Saturday night, and this was the Iron 8 tournament. Now, I went to the Iron 8 tournament about a year ago, like I said, in May, after I made that first video blog, so that this is the first time I'm talking about it. And that show, honest to God, one of the best indie wrestling events that I've ever been to, which is saying a lot because I've been to well over a dozen indie events in the 7 years that I've been a wrestling fan. I've been to a few in 2009, 2010, and a lot over the years where I've met a grand scale of wrestlers. Now, Northeast Wrestling, the other indie event, the other indie organization that I regularly attend when I'm home from school and whatnot, they're different from NECW. They don't put out a weekly TV show. They don't have, you know, they have a YouTube channel that you can check out, but they don't have, you know, like consistent storylines for the most part. They'll like have one consistent storyline or two over the championship, but other than that, they'll just have their regular guys, you know, the indie guys doing random matches every single month. But they bring in big stars. Like in the 6-7 years that I've been going Northeast Wrestling, well over half of the wrestlers that I've ever met in my lifetime have been at those kind of events. In November, I think I talked about in a video blog, a reminder of why I'm a wrestling fan video blog from a couple months ago, maybe in November if you want to check it out. That was a show where I met AJ Styles at, you know, my profile picture, AJ Styles, Bully Ray, Velvet Sky, Kurt Angle, and that was only one show. I've also met Matt Hardy multiple times, Scott Hall, not Rey Mysterio, that was an autograph signing, but a bunch of other wrestlers, Mr. Kennedy, almost Bret Hart at one point, and that actually might be happening next month. And that's another indie event I might be going to, Legends of Wrestling. I don't know if you can really call it indie event, but there will be indie talent there, bringing in the big stars. So anyway, going back to NECW, I hate to ramble, I hate to digress, so I apologize. But basically, that's what this random video blog column is all about. Anyone that was a regular viewer knows I tend to ramble. That's my thing. That's what this video blog is all about. That's what kind of makes it different than the other videos put out throughout the week. But anyway, going back to the NECW show, I'll try not to get off track this time. A great show. And like I said, the show that I went to about a year ago was phenomenal. The Iron 8 tournament, for those unfamiliar, I've talked about it on Wrestle Rant Radio before. I've talked about it in articles and stuff. The Iron 8 tournament is a 4-man, 45-minute Iron Man tournament. So there's 4 qualifying matches throughout the night. And indie shows are like, any other WWE, TNA show, whatever, 2 to 3 hours at the most. Usually around 2.5 hours, but it is what it is. They have 4 qualifying matches throughout the night, between 2 competitors. 4 people advance. It's a fatal 4-way match, 45 minutes long, in an Iron Man match. Extremely exciting stuff. Loved the show a year ago. It was a few days before I got done with my freshman year of college, and it was about like a day or so before my grandfather passed away. So that was like one of the it wasn't really a distraction from that because, of course, it didn't really happen yet. But it was like one of those things that was surreal. Like a roller coaster of a weekend. I go to that show on Saturday. That happened on Sunday. And it was just like the highest of highs to like the lowest of lows. And it was, that's why I have such fond memories of that show. And I was also at that show, and I talked to this before on like a Facebook blog or something, that I was at that show, the first Iron 8 tournament from about a year ago, like I said, last May, where there was also this kid in attendance. And I love going to these shows because it's usually the same people that go all the time, so I get to see some familiar faces and, shoot the breeze, shoot WWE breeze with, some people that I see on a regular basis. But there was like this kid there, and I'm not, I'm a kid. I'm 19, almost turning 20 years old in a couple months, in a couple weeks. But this kid was about maybe 10, not even 10 years old, maybe like 8 years old. And it was funny because he said one of his favorite wrestlers was Rusev, which at that time was kind of like a bold thing to say since Rusev was really not on the up and up at that point. He had just arrived or something like that. But this kid was in awe of this event, especially one of the luchador wrestlers that wears a mask named Lucha or Total El Loco, I think his name is. And he came around the ring shaking people's hands, and he shook this kid's hand, and the kid's face, his facial reaction was priceless. His facial expression was priceless. Like, you could not have seen a bigger smile on this kid's face because he was so happy that one of his favorite wrestlers, for that one night anyway, touched his hand, acknowledged him. It was great. Stuff like that is really heartwarming to about anyone, but especially to like a wrestling fan that sees, we all remember that point in time when we were that young, kind of looking, idolizing wrestling. I don't really have that. I started watching when I was 14 years old, like I said, so that was kind of my earliest memories of wrestling, but people that grew up watching it from 5 to 10 to however years old you started watching wrestling, stuff like that you can only get at an indie event. And they made video blogs in the past about how house shows are better than WWE, like televised shows. Everything has their own perks. I think the WWE televised shows are great. They're memorable. They're historic, like the show that I went to last June. House shows are really fun, too, because you get to see a lot of your favorite WWE superstars. But you don't get to get up and close with these people. More often than not, unless something, 1 in a million chance something happens, that you get to go into the ring or something like that. Other than that, you do not get to meet your favorite WWE superstars. In an indie event, sure, you might get that occasional big name coming in to do an autograph session or something like that. But more often than not, it's just the indie talent. And, going up to them, telling them that they had a good match, or, asking them a question, or just, conversating with them means the world. I'm friends with a lot of indie wrestlers. A lot of them are really, really cool, whether they make it to WWE or not. They really appreciate all the support that you give them. And going out to these shows kind of breaks down that wall that you won't get at a WWE show, that you won't get at a TNA show, likely will not get at a Ring of Honor show or elsewhere. You get to get, face-to-face communication with these indie wrestlers, and it's so much fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, you bring a casual fan, they're expecting a WWE show, and even they have a fun time because, it's up and close, it's a lot of fun, die-hard wrestling fans go to these things. It's just love for the business, and I think it's great. So I had a lot of fun at that show last year, had even more fun this year, and I wore the shirt, I'm not wearing it right now, but I wore it in this week's hashtag AskGSM video. I bought like a CM Punk t-shirt that some guy was selling at the show for like $20, and they have food there for like $2, $1, like you go to like, some kind of town convention or something like that, they have like a snack bar or like a baseball game in your town, not like MLB, but I'm talking like Little League and stuff, and they sell food for like $1 or $2. That's basically what it was at this show. So the food is pretty cheap, or like cheap, in price. The quality was pretty good. They sold pizza and stuff. But the show itself was a lot of fun. One guy like jumped off a fucking balcony. You had the 45-minute Iron Man match. A new champion was crowned. People were crazy all night long. And I say it all the time. I have my own series about this here on the video on the YouTube channel that I make an occasional video blog about it every once in a while, about how like these shows that I go to serve as a reminder as to why I'm a wrestling fan, as if I ever forgot. These shows are just absolutely phenomenal. It's not a WrestleMania. You go to a WrestleMania, then you go to an indie show. It's a complete 180. So if you've never been to a wrestling show at all, it's better to start out. It's better to start out with an indie show. But even if you have gone to a WWE show, or a TNA show, or a WrestleMania, or any other pay-per-view or whatever, it's still fun to go to these shows. Some of my best and most favorite wrestling memories come from indie events from over the last 7 years. I've met an extraordinary amount of amazing people, both wrestlers and other fellow fans and everybody else in between. It's such a fun time. And going to that show this past Saturday night was really, really cool to me, kind of to end off my sophomore year of college and kind of go out on a bang after seeing that awesome show, up close and in person. It's not a bad thing either, and I've wrote about this in the past, how wrestling is like the ultimate escape from a reality. I'm not saying you should, run away from your problems or anything like that, but you had a bad day at work, you had a bad day at school, you just broke up with your girlfriend or whoever or whatever, and, you go to one of these shows, it takes your mind off of everything. It's like, wrestling is like a drug, but you're not actually doing harm to your body or whatever. It's not like you're actually putting anything into your body, I guess I should say, it's very addictive in that like a drug that you can keep on going. I'm not saying you should keep on wasting your money by going to countless events, but the occasional indie event, the occasional WWE event is a lot of fun. But indie wrestling, like what this video is all about, is what you should be going to. If they have it in your area, give it a shot. Even if they don't have any people that you have like no idea who these people are, still give it a shot. I can guarantee you 9 times out of 10 you will have a really fun time. You get acclimated with the wrestlers involved, with the storylines, with the titles, the champions, and you'll find yourself keep on coming back. And like I said, a WWE show, while it's fun, can be expensive, and I see people in the front row of every show. How they afford to go to these shows all the time, I have no idea. But for the common person like you and me and everyone else, we can't afford to go to these WWE shows all the time. So in any event, every once in a while, spend $10, $15 to get in. It's well worth it. You will not regret the experience, and it's a very enjoyable one. So I would absolutely suggest and strongly recommend that you go out of your way to check out any indie wrestling you can find on the internet, but especially anything you find in person. Just going to a show is an extraordinary experience. You will not regret it. You'll have a very fun time, and it'll make you appreciate that you're a fan of wrestling that much more.